There are abandoned places where the silence feels earned. Roofs collapse, paint peels, wind moves through broken windows, and time does what time always does. But there are other places where the silence is misleading because the thing that made people leave did not leave with them. An empty street can still sit over fire, a forest can grow through radioactive fallout, a desert ruin can hold the memory of weaponized disease. A town can disappear from maps because the dust itself became part of the threat. What makes these places disturbing is not just that something terrible happened there once, it is that the danger did not end when the people did. In northern Ukraine, the most famous abandoned city on Earth still looks almost staged for a film. Apartment towers stand over trees that have pushed back into the streets. Schoolrooms hold scattered books and broken glass. The Ferris wheel in Pripyat has become one of the defining images of modern disaster. But the real story is larger than one city. Pripyat was evacuated after the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear disaster, and the wider exclusion zone became a landscape controlled not by walls or fences alone, but by contamination spread through soil, surfaces, vegetation, and time. That is part of what radiation does to the human imagination. It attacks trust. The ground may look normal, the air may look clean. A roof, a road, a patch of moss, a line of trees can all appear untouched, yet the danger is not measured by what the eye sees. It is measured by what remains in the environment and where it's settled. In places like this, abandonment becomes a management strategy. Distance becomes policy. The ruins remain, but they remain under rules the landscape did not need before the accident. And Pripyat is only the beginning, because radiation is not the only force that can outlast a town. In Pennsylvania, the threat came from below. Centralia was once a mining town built over coal country. In 1962, a fire began in the mine workings beneath it. What followed was not one catastrophic night, but a long, punishing unraveling. The fire moved underground through the coal seams. It generated gases, destabilized ground, and made the town progressively harder to defend, insure, and inhabit. Families left, buildings came down, streets ended in emptiness. The visible town shrank because the invisible town below it would not stop burning. That is why Centralia feels so unsettling. It does not fit the usual picture of disaster. There was no single wave, no cratered skyline, no one moment that explains the whole thing. Instead, the threat kept going year after year beneath foundations, roads, and yards. The ground itself became suspect. Even after most of the town emptied, the fire remained the main character. Human life retreated upward and outward. The combustion kept working in the dark. If Chernobyl is a warning about contamination we cannot see, Centralia is a warning about processes we cannot fully control once they enter the Earth. And from there, the film moves to a place where both scale and consequence get even bigger. Along the Columbia River in Washington state, Hanford helped build the nuclear age. This was a secret wartime production landscape, then a vast Cold War industrial complex built to make plutonium for weapons. What remains is not a picturesque ghost town in the usual sense. It is something more modern and more disturbing, a managed ruin of reactors, waste sites, buried material, contaminated soil, and groundwater systems that turned one of the most consequential military landscapes in American history into one of the most demanding cleanup challenges in the country. Hanford changes the emotional scale of the film. Here, the danger is not tied to one accident or one failed evacuation. It is tied to a production system. The site was built for strategic speed, secrecy, and output. The contamination that followed was part of that history, not a side note. This is what makes abandoned, toxic landscapes so hard to understand. They are not always failures in the dramatic sense. Sometimes they are the afterlife of success, if success is defined narrowly enough and the bill is pushed far enough into the future. At Hanford, abandonment is selective. Some structures are preserved for history, other zones are controlled because the material in the ground and infrastructure still matters. The place is both past and present at the same time. It belongs to the Manhattan Project, the Cold War, and the unfinished work of cleanup all at once. Then the story shifts again, from radioactive particles and buried waste to something lighter, smaller, and in some ways even crueler: a fiber. In the Pilbara region of Western Australia, Whitnam was built around blue asbestos mining. For a time, it was a company town in a dramatic landscape of red earth and steep gorges. But asbestos doesn't need an explosion to change the future of a place. It works through exposure, through dust, through the long delay between contact and illness. People can breathe it long before they understand what it will cost. Communities can normalize it before medicine and law catch up. And by the time the danger is fully acknowledged, the contamination may already be woven into roads, lots, waste piles, creek lines, and memories. Whitnam became one of those places governments stopped treating like a normal town. Utilities were cut, official recognition was removed. Warnings became stronger, not weaker. The landscape itself remained contaminated by the legacy of mining, and tailings spread through the area. What makes Whitnam so powerful in documentary terms is that it destroys the fantasy that danger has to feel dramatic in the moment. Some of the most devastating industrial threats arrive as ordinary work, ordinary dust, ordinary days, and a disease curve that may not fully appear until years later. By this point, the film has moved through fallout, subterranean fire, and toxic mineral exposure. But the last major case reaches into another category entirely: places where the legacy is not just chemical or radioactive, but biological. In the former Aral Sea region, Vozrozhdeniya Island was once remote enough to serve as a Soviet biological weapons testing ground. It was associated with Aralsk 7, a closed military settlement built to support that secret world. Pathogens were tested there. Buried material later became a serious concern. And then the geography changed. As the Aral Sea shrank, isolation became less reliable. What had once been protected by water became easier to approach across a transformed landscape. That transformation is what gives the site its late film force. The danger here is not simply the old fear of laboratories or military secrecy. It is the collision between secrecy and environmental change. A site designed around separation became vulnerable to a new physical reality. Distance narrowed. Control changed. The desert did not erase the history. It exposed it differently. And this is where the film's central argument comes fully into view. These places are not linked by one substance or one mechanism. Radiation behaves differently from asbestos. A mine fire is not a biological weapons proving ground. Chemical waste is not the same as fallout. But they all reveal the same human mistake: the belief that once a site is closed, fenced, evacuated, or forgotten, the problem belongs to the past.
It often does not. Land remembers production. Soil remembers leakage. Concrete remembers what it stored. Air can carry what humans crushed, burned, or buried. Water can move a legacy farther than the original builders ever intended. In abandonment, far from ending the story, can freeze a place in the exact condition that proves how unfinished the story really is. That is why the most unsettling image in this film is not necessarily a ruined building. It is a normal-looking surface in a place that is no longer normal. A road into trees, a warning sign on open ground, rusted infrastructure under clean daylight, a settlement where the houses are gone, but the risk remains. These are landscapes where human activity is stopped, but consequence has not. In the end, abandoned toxic places force a very modern kind of honesty. They show that danger can become quiet without becoming gone. They show that contamination does not need drama to keep its power. and they show that the most lasting damage humans do to a landscape is often not the spectacular moment that makes the news, but the residue that keeps shaping the land long after the cameras leave.